Welcome to the Bullish Drive Podcast, where we explore the realms of faith, mental performance, and personal testimonies through conversations with high-level performers. Join us as we extract valuable insights from their experiences to supercharge your pursuit of peak performance. This is the Bullish Drive Podcast. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Bullish Drive Podcast. I'm James Dreesen, your mental performance coach, and if you're new to the podcast, first off, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in and welcome. Here we do interviews with high-level performers. So we're talking athletes, musicians, professional trainers, esports competitors. We run the gambit, but at the end of the day, we just want to bring wisdom to all of our listeners. What did they do? What barriers did they overcome? What mindset skills did they use? What things were they not prepared for that they had to figure out and adjust, hopefully to save you time, so that when you are aspiring to become the next athlete, the next big musician, that you are putting things and skills in place to help you get there. And today we have an awesome guest. She has done so much with just her art. And as you listen to this conversation, I want you to really hone in on just her faith that she had in God's plan for her life. And what I love is that her parents very much instilled just building up this creativity within her. And despite any hardships or difficulties, it just continued to grow. It continued to grow to the point where if you're a T-Wolves fan, maybe you've peeped John's shoes. He's the MC for the Timberwolves. His custom Jordies were done by our guest today. Or maybe you've seen some NBA players showing off some custom artwork, probably hers. Or maybe you bought the Siempre Familia hoodies during the Latin celebration night. That stuff was done by our guest today. Alejandra Colosimo is here today to talk about just her journey in art and her faith with God. And it's just incredible. I don't want to say too much more because just hearing her testimony is super powerful. So I'm super stoked, super excited to invite Alejandra Colosimo, the artist, here on the Bullish Drive Podcast. Welcome to the show. I have someone who I've known for a long time, and she has just stepped into her calling and really grown her passion. So I'm super stoked for her to share that. If anybody likes the Timberwolves, there was a super sweet hoodie that went out there, Siempre Familia, which was designed by Alejandra. And she is here today on the Bullish Drive Podcast. I'm super stoked to share her journey. So Alejandra, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited. This is my first podcast, so I'm excited that it's going to be fun.
So how about we start out with you just kind of telling us a little bit about what you do. Obviously, I broke it by saying you're an artist, but, just a little bit more about that. And yeah, we'll start there. So what do you do? What are you? What are you doing?
Yeah. Honestly, right now my time is split in half, I would say. I'm still really focused on art and doing my artwork, which could be a variety of things, whether it's sports related or just commissioned work from people, close friends as well. But I'm also still an educator. I do some work with the school district that I'm near right now, and help with subbing and stuff. I was a full-time teacher last year, but have moved into this new schedule of still doing art, but being included in the schools.
Yeah. So now, when it comes to your art, now this isn't something new for you. Like this is a passion that you've had for a while. So where did that start? Where did that start? How did you find this kind of calling because for those who are listening, like her art is super dope and it's like really, really good. So she's going to be humble. I can feel it, but it's really good stuff. So where did it start?
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of people ask me this because they're like, I mean, was it since you were really little? Like, how did I? And truthfully, it was like, that sounds cheesy, but like my parents would buy me like watercolor sets or crayons, and I was doing it everywhere. And I don't know at what point, like if it was encouraged at school, if I was just drawn to it, but I would do it at home, and then obviously grew into a more practiced thing through like middle school and high school. But I remember in high school, just finding the art room to be a place that felt safe and just relaxing. That be part of my day where I didn't feel stressed. I was just focused on something that I loved, and that really led my art teacher at the time, who really pushed me to continue it. She saw something in me that really allowed her to believe in me and say, like, I think this is something that you love to do, and because of it, like, keep going. And so she really encouraged me not only to do art but also be an educator. So she was the one who was like, maybe being an art teacher is one way to go, because I think with art there's so many different things. I mean, even now it's grown more than when I was in high school. Doing like digital work, or working for an animation company, like there's so much you can do with art. But she was like, do you like teaching others, and do you like spending time with kids? Which at the time I did. I had spent a lot of time with youth, so it was that combination of like, I'm doing art at a really young age, I love it, how can I tie it with something else that could also bring at some point income to our household too,
right.
A career, And so that was those both things, like teaching and art. And so that's the route that I originally went.
Yeah. Now, was there an art project in high school or anything like that where like you did it and it was like filled with just 100% of who you are, and you're like, this is it, like this is my passion here? Like, I know you said your teacher like encouraged you, but some people will tell us we're good at stuff and we just don't like doing it. I mean? But so now, what do you remember, like that one piece or that one moment where you're like, man, this is my jam, this is my thing?
That's so funny. I'm so glad you just asked that, because I realized just now, based off of what I'm doing now, so which I'm sure we'll go into with the type of art that I'm creating, but I remember I loved making art for other people, but I also loved making art that included things that I loved, right? And so I had forgotten about it, but I made this really large painting. One of my bigger paintings in high school was during the World Cup. And so I knew my dad loved Brazil. Brazil has been our family team ever since I was little. We love that team.
Yeah.
And so I created this huge painting that had like landscape that included that was found in Brazil, so like jungle and like animals, but also, like I said, like the landscape portion of like mountains or water. And I included all of that, and I put the big World Cup in it. And I was like, oh my gosh, like my dad's gonna love it. So I grabbed a whole bunch of pieces of things that I loved, and I put it on one location. And like, that's what it was for me. Like the World Cup was all of these different things that I love and brought together in one. And now that I think about it, I think that that's probably my first like sports related work that I did that moved me to put what I was feeling on canvas. And so I think that that's one of the bigger parts, but I think that also plays into what my work is now, of like combining a lot of different things together to make one. My paintings aren't just like one thing. It's I bring a lot of mediums into it as well. And so I made a lot of different pieces in high school that combined images together, and that was so fun. Like obviously you can look outside, you can look out the window and see a tree and beautiful leaves, but like when you bring in other aspects, like that, the fact the leaves are crunchy, and you bring like, that's all that gives you an experience. And that's what I try to do with my artwork, is create this experience by combining.
I love that. That's so cool. And so we're gonna get back to that sports side, but I want to like chronologically move through your journey. So you graduate from high school, now you're choosing a college career. You said that it was education. That's kind of what it is. Is that what you immediately jumped into, or were you focusing on other areas of art at that time?
Yeah, I focused a lot on education right away, like what path would lead me to this to a program that would combine both. Really, I needed both. I needed that combination of art and education. And so I was really excited but really nervous to go to college, just because there was this pressure as a first generation student. Like I was finally going to do something that no one in my family had done before. And so it was like, okay, I need to pick the right place. I also wanted to, feel comfortable, feel close to home. So my journey started at Bethel University in Arden Hills, Minnesota. And so I found a program that was combining both, like I mentioned, art and education. Plus I was close to home, and it was faith-based. So those were all things that mattered to me. And so I began with that. Later on, I actually I had met my husband prior in middle school, actually, and then spoken in high school, and we had gotten to a point where we wanted to get married, and so that's when I transferred. So my education went from Bethel University to NDSU. So North Dakota State University also had a program that they had started. It felt really new, as did Bethel's, a program that combined those art and education. I mean, art teachers exist, but for some reason, like the colleges that I had looked at didn't have like a set program for someone who wanted to go that route. So that's where it started for me and continued for me at North Dakota State University, where I did art education, and I really got to dig into those art courses. Had an emphasis in painting, which is why that's where a lot of my knowledge comes from, is in the world of painting. But I got to explore, what did schools look like in another state too, in North Dakota, and then later on moving back and doing student teaching in Minnesota. But it was not a regular, like, I started college and then I graduated from that college and that was it. There was a lot in between, like I said, from transferring to even getting married, and then balancing life as an artist, a teacher, a wife, everything, a daughter, trying to also complete those dreams that my parents had for me too, of going to college and completing and getting my degree. And so once I graduated, it was huge. It was huge for me. And I always say, like, I'm not the only one that walked across that stage that day. My parents did too. And my family, like my husband and my grandparents, you know what I mean? Like I carried so much across that stage that was something that I was really proud of. And that I to give to more people other than myself.
That's so awesome. That's really cool. I love that story. I love that how many firsts you mentioned in there, right? Like just all these transitions and stuff like that. So with that first, because I think this is an important mindset that we need to instill in our younger generations, right? I think people pull away from things that they've never experienced before. People pull away from things that they're uncomfortable with. I tell this story a lot, but I think it really kind of personifies this. I was working with a rugby team. They were bottom of the league, right? They were bottom of the league, and they hired me to consult for them. And, I asked them, well, what does your tackling drills look like, right? What does your tackling look like? And they're like, we don't do tackling in practices. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't? Like, this is rugby. Like, that's kind of like 90% of the game, right?
Yeah.
And their reasoning for it, however logical it was they were afraid that they were going to get hurt.
Yeah.
And that mindset, unfortunately, stopped them from competing. Right. And, we eventually added it. We taught them how to tackle right, how to, line up the opposition so they could do it. And they ended up winning the championship that year. But the moral of the story is, I think a lot of people, when they see something that's new or scary in front of them, they'll completely avoid it, not knowing that they're actually hurting their journey, that they're hurting their difficulties. So with yours, like you said, there was just a lot of new things that you had never encountered before. What did you do in those moments to believe in your journey, to believe in the outcome, or to, I don't know if convince is a good word, like walk us through that. What was that like, stepping into those unknown places?
Yeah, I think there's so much that played into it. I think that one was knowing that what I was doing was greater than myself. Was like the purpose behind it was greater than myself. So I wasn't doing it just for me, but I think doing it for yourself is also important. You can't leave that out. But I had I think I would say a lot of healthy and then also unhealthy pressures that pushed me. To the healthy ones, obviously knowing that like I wanted to accomplish something in order to really make a difference in my community. So like, how could I be an educator that helps shape the lives of these students that I already cared about? You know what I mean? Even though I wasn't a teacher yet. And so something that it's when we were in school last year, I taught elementary school. So obviously the way that I spoke to them is very different than if you speak to an adult or a high schooler or anything. But
sometimes
really, sometimes that's true. But really, sometimes really it was telling them like, we can do hard things. And like that quote of like, you can do hard things, is knowing that like, it's not things aren't going to be easy. We know that. And so if we live our lives trying to avoid it, like we're never going to learn what it is to get up and what it is to persevere. And then also reap like, feeling that satisfaction of like, you did it. You reached something that you were going after. And so to circle back to your question. So one, like I said, the pressure of it being something greater than myself, wanting to accomplish something with for a purpose that I felt was really important to me. And then also I love to learn. And I know that not everyone is wired that way. And I say it because my husband will openly tell you, like, he, got through college, like did what he did, but like learning and going through the classes and stuff was just not his thing. Like didn't really enjoy it. Versus I love education. Also why I'm a teacher, why I went into being a teacher. But I loved knowing that there's something that no matter what the world can take from you, like your knowledge and what you know can't be taken. And so I know that like I'm being drawn to being a student and learning, and like that pushed me as well. But last, I would say it's also knowing and having confidence in who I'm being called to be. And I think that connects a lot to my faith. And so for me, my faith is the center of how I run my life and how I go forward and things. And so knowing that I was created with a purpose reminded me, like, this is why we do it, this is why we push forward as well. And knowing that I wasn't alone. Truthfully, like, my faith teaches me that there's someone greater than I am that walks alongside me when things do get hard, and they will get hard. So I think that's kind of a big part of it too, is knowing, like, not going in like blindly, like, oh, this is going to be easy, there's nothing that's going to affect me. It's more of like, no, I know we're walking into something that's going to be difficult, and who am I going to be during those times? So I wanted to push through, and then I wanted to achieve something that I knew no one else had achieved as well. And I did that with the help of my family, but most importantly with the help of God. And so we made it. We graduated.
That's right. And you're still growing. And like you guys are still very young, at least compared to me. So I mean, like you guys are killing it. And there are a couple things you said that I really want. I'm hoping to expand a little bit on. The first thing is and I might misquote this because it came by really fast, and I don't know if the listeners caught this too, but you said wisdom cannot be taken, I think is what you said. And I love that. Can you expand on that? Like, what do you mean by wisdom cannot be taken? What does that mean?
Yeah, I mean, we live in a world where material things matter to a lot of people. And very plainly, my house can be taken from me.
Sure. Whether
it's natural causes, or if we fail to pay, or if we do whatever, you know what I mean? Things can be stolen, things can be, but, and really, like, if we find our identity in those things, that could destroy us too. But like what we know and what we've learned and what we take in is what we carry ourselves with, in the way that we treat people, the way that we do our work, the way that we are a daughter, a wife, like that is who we are. That can become who we are in our core, right? Like we can take that, whatever knowledge we decide to take in, and then that can influence the way that we act and the way that we show ourselves to be to other people. And so everything I've learned, like, that's all in here. So like that's what I'm going to take with me, and that's why it can't be taken from you, is because you get to decide. You have the power to decide what you do with that knowledge moving forward.
Oof, man, I got shivers from that. That's a word in and of itself, man. I love that. And the part that you said, like, you have a choice, right? You can choose what you're going to do with that wisdom, right? And I find that a lot with, just building your wisdom with the Bible, right? I think a lot of people do it just so they can hold it all in themselves and stuff like that. But then something I discovered when I started doing like these podcasts and stuff like that, like when you have a heart to give back, right? When you have a heart to pour into other people, then you start building this want to grow your knowledge base, right? Yeah. And there was Graham Betchard is one of my mentors, and he said, always work out of a place of graciously giving, because when you graciously give, there's so many other side effects that come with that, like taking your wisdom. It's something you take wherever, like you said. And I love that you said that with wisdom. And in comparison with all the other things that can be taken from us, I love that. And then the second thing you said is you're talking about God's calling for you. And one of our slogans is your destiny is waiting, right? And I think that, like you said, God has a specific destiny for us and he's willing to walk with us. But everybody will try and take different ways to get to their destiny. And sometimes that makes our destiny wait. You know what I mean? Like, it's not coming towards us. We have to walk towards it. So what kind of conversations did you have with God to make sure you're still walking on the path of your calling and knowing what that was?
I think it's a conversation. It's an ongoing one. I think it's one that I'm still having with God now. Like, how can I use what I'm doing for your glory, but also the desires of my heart, that things sometimes just bring you joy, and that's why you do them. And so it's really asking, like, what does what I'm doing offer, not just me, but like my soul, and then how can that impact those around me? Something that I came to realization within the last couple of weeks actually was with the paintings that I've been doing. I have so much fun creating them, right? I love out of all the things that I love, one of the things included in there is sports, and it's basketball, and it's creating things on canvas that will allow me to express the experience that I get when I go to a game. And so I've had the conversation of like, okay, God, like, why am I able to do that? Like, what's the purpose behind me being able to put that on canvas and creating something that's just fun and that thankfully has reached other people? Like, I think that's something too, that's the ultimate, that brings so much joy, is like seeing someone else be like, oh my gosh, like, I love that. I feel like I can feel how these colors come together and do that. And then that's how I connect with others, right? But I was like, why? Like, I remember thinking, like, God, like, why does this matter? In the world where there's so much, why does painting sports matter? Why does putting this on canvas matter? And I started to discover that, like, there was ways that even something that I loved could be detrimental to me if I wasn't handing it all to the one who created me. And that was that I started to make paintings, and then at one point, I created a piece. I remember that, like, obviously I work through social media, so I posted on social media, but it didn't get the response that I was hoping for. And that put me in a position where it stumped me, like, creatively. I was like, okay, now I literally can't paint because I'm losing my inspiration. Like, I don't feel like it anymore. Like, what? And it was really like God called me to really dig, like, what, like, why are you in this spot? Like, only you put yourself in this spot. Like, why are you in it? And really it's knowing like, what are we bringing our gifts to? Like, are we trying to gain the whole world, or are we doing it for, you know, for another reason? And I found that like, because I hadn't gotten that like that initial response that I thought I needed and wanted, and that was like the attention, that discouraged me. And in my time with God, I also, which goes back to getting knowledge, you know, gaining knowledge, one of my devotionals had brought me to a spot where it talked about how if we're trying to please other human beings, we're never going to be gratified. Like, it's never going to be enough.
Yeah.
And so it's how God created all things for good, but as humans who are born into sin, like we don't take these things. We sometimes take these things and they can be bad. So something as beautiful as art, or something as great as even food, like it can be used in a way that is not glorifying God. And so when we don't do that, it can start taking life from us instead of giving it to us. And so the reason why I say it's a continual question of like, God, why? Like, what am I doing with it? Is because I have to continually ask that every day in order to bring my focus to Him. And so I was like, you know what? Sometimes art doesn't have to get me exactly what I think I need it to. And when I let go of that, when I don't idolize the one thing that I feel like I'm good at, God uses it for something greater. And so I've really been able to just find joy in it. Sometimes it brings in income, which is a huge blessing. And sometimes it brings me projects like Siempre Familia, the hoodie that I got to design that really helped me uplift my community. And so those are the things that I'm looking for when I'm praying to God, is like, how can I find purpose behind different projects, or just find joy, because He gives that to us too. Sometimes it doesn't have to do with wanting money or like changing an entire, you know, community. Sometimes it's just finding joy.
Yeah. That there's so many good pieces in there.
I was like, I don't even know if I answered the question, but
no, you answered it beautifully. And I think it really shows like how much God has helped walk beside you. You touched on it a little bit earlier, just how, you know, God walks alongside you with these things, and you've shown like the benefits of allowing God to do that. I think a lot of times we don't let God do that. And then we get angry at God why He didn't show up. It's like, well, we didn't invite Him into it. So He's not going to force His way into our lives. Like, we have to be willing to. And so I think that was really great. I love that. Now, so we're closing to the end of our time. So I just want to leave some space. Any last things you want to tell a listener, maybe aspiring artist or anything like that, that just wants to make sure they're doing the right things to keep them motivated and pushing through?
Yeah, I think find a balance of like, in life, you know, like I mentioned before, sometimes as an artist specifically, we try a lot to kind of live off of what we do too. I mean, it's something you can't avoid. We need income, you need things to come in, but find that balance of like, truly do what you love because you love it. And then good. Find joy in more than that as well. Don't put all your joy, don't depend everything that you do on don't allow your joy to depend on just one thing, because at some point things aren't going to work out. The painting isn't going to sell the way that you thought it was, or the project didn't turn out. And so where are you going to find your joy then that will allow you to continue to move forward and doing what you love and creating the way that you were created to create?
Oh man, that's so good. That's so good. Now, you have a Instagram page, like you said, and is there a way that someone can reach out to you if they want to just chat with you about art, commission something, or just see what you've done before?
Yeah. So my first thing I would say, I'm very active on Instagram. So Alejandra.Colosimo is my tag, and then otherwise you can reach at my email, which is art.colosimo@gmail.com.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast, and I'm glad we finally got to do this. Thank you so much, Alejandra, for being on the show today. And like she said, if you want to follow her, check her out on Instagram. It's alejandra.colosimo, and it's all for artwork, which is super, super cool to check out. And if you are an athlete or musician looking to reach the next level of performance, reach out to us at www.bullishDrive.com. I'd love to hear your story and just see how we can potentially partner to help you reach that next level. Once again, thank you so much for joining us this week on the Bullish Drive Podcast. We'll see you next week. And always remember, it starts with you and your destiny is waiting. Peace.